I'm here with Tammy from the IDF spokesperson's department, and she heads up probably the section that I would argue is the most important here in regards to trying to win the public affairs battle, uh, not just during this current conflict in the mission against the Iranian regime, but also since October 7. Tammy, tell us what it is specifically that you do.
So, first of all, thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak a little more about what it is that we do. So, what it means is that my department runs and owns all the digital assets of the IDF to the international public. So, we have accounts across 12 different platforms. We keep opening up new platforms, trying to keep up with the people of the world, with what the trends are, what people are sharing their opinions on. And we share our message across three different languages: English, Spanish, and French. That is only in my department. Of course, we have different social media departments that talk to different audiences. So we have the Arabic and Persian digital department. They speak to what we call the enemy. They talk to the Iranian regime directly. They talk to the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas directly, but they also talk to the people of those countries. We've been saying since October 7th, our war is not with the people of Gaza. Our war is not with the people of Iran, of Lebanon, or of Syria. Our wars are with the regimes who have been oppressing and trying to make sure the population stays submissive to completely ruthless regimes. So what we do across those platforms is we try and share with the people ways they can keep safe. So if you go onto our platforms in Persian, you'll see in the last 5 days that we've been calling on different areas of Tehran or different areas in Iran where we've been saying to the people, move away, move towards northern Iran, towards western Iran. We've been doing the same thing in Gaza, trying to make sure our fight stays isolated with the regimes. And of course, we have the digital media department that talks to the Israelis. Yeah, at the end of the day, Israelis, the Jewish people are very, very resilient, but they've been going through a very, very hard time. And they want to know what is happening. All of the soldiers here in the IDF are someone's son, someone's daughter. Their parents are eager to know what is happening, where they are, what they had for lunch. So that department is there to kind of make what is happening here in the IDF accessible to those parents, to those new soldiers here in the army. And a very clear understanding is that social media is a very, very important part of winning a war.
It would be a difficult job if you were a normal country. And when I say a normal country, I mean a country where the vast majority of the world believe you have a right to exist, defend yourself, fight an existential crisis. Israel is not that country. You can't do anything without so much overwhelming hate, judgment, bias, saturation of lies, narratives that are not true. How do you stop that, or how do you repel that in the most effective way? What is the most effective way to try and stop all the misinformation?
You love what you do and you love your country. If I would have started every day with going through the hate comments and the comment sections, I wouldn't have been able to do my job. I wouldn't have been able to be there for my soldiers, for my people who rely on the fact that what we do here is just and what we do here is right, and we're driven by our morals, our values, the history of our people. We've been fighting a war that has been a just war. This war started on October 7th with the massacre of 1,200 innocent civilians. And I think that in the perspective of over 620 days, we forget, because human nature is to forget these awful and terrible memories, and we try and kind of keep them in a closed box, but we can't allow that to happen. This war started with one of the most horrific massacres in modern day history. And every day when I wake up and I try to make that message come across to my people, to our department, to the French, we wake up and we do what we do to commemorate the memory of those who were killed, to commemorate the memory of the soldiers who died protecting them, and to make sure that those that are still being held hostage, those who are still fighting, we make sure that their stories are told. And that is what you do.
In terms of, you talked about enemy, and you're very right in that you separate regime from everyday civilians. I want to know how you measure the efficacy of those efforts, because we know within Iran, minimum 80% of the population already dislike that regime. In Gaza, situation is very different, but how do you measure that your message is getting through? Obviously, evacuate you can measure fairly accurately, but when you're trying to show them you are not their enemy, that their enemy is this satanic, murderous regime.
So I think you see it on the ground. Of course, the evacuation warnings are very clear thing to measure, but you can see that the soldiers that are in Gaza several times a day, civilians, Gazan people, kids or women or even men would come up to the soldiers, kind of ask them for guidance on where to go, ask them for medical attention if they need, ask them for food and water, and the soldiers will always oblige and will always help. There was an incident a couple weeks ago around 2 a.m. in the area of Rafah. There were soldiers. Obviously, we have posts in Gaza, and the stations are always manned. And one of the scouts spotted a 4-year-old boy. And the 4-year-old boy was walking towards the troops. And when it's dark outside, you just kind of see a small figure moving towards you, and you don't know what it is. But they feared it might be a child, so they let him advance towards them. And they approached the child and they asked him, "Why are you here? What are you doing? It's supposed to be this big scary army. How can you come to us with nothing to defend yourself?" And he says, "My father works for Hamas. My father sent me here to spy on you, to see when the shifts end, when do you do your patrols, where do you look, what are your blind spots, and he sent me here because he wants to kill you, but I don't want you to die because you gave me water the other days."
Oh, wow.
And the child received medical attention. He was very, very neglected, and he was then processed by the Palestinian Red Cross to kind of to try and find him a better living situation than a father that sends him to spy after soldiers.
It's such a great point you make in that we're starting to see more and more people on the ground, particularly in Gaza. I know that's not so much the world's focus at the moment, but who seem to understand who their enemy is, who seem to understand who is to blame for their pain and suffering, and that it is Hamas and not the IDF. Kids at universities in America or in the UK or in Europe or in Australia don't seem to understand that and don't believe the people on the ground who are living with this terrorist regime. There are different methods, I'm assuming, in how you're trying to show them the truth, Western woke, useful idiots, and how you try and show civilian populations. How do you try to tackle young people who want to jump on a cause and do not understand?
Listen, at the end of the day, I very much understand the need, the want to be a part of something big. Here in Israel, we have that answer kind of figured out for us. Every 18-year-old becomes automatically part of something big. We all become a part of the idea. So I understand the youthful spirit and wanting to be part of the cause. It's just, it saddens me to see that it's a cause that doesn't want their support. You see a lot of movements who want to help the Palestinian people, who want to help the people of Gaza, but they fail to recognize a very big fault in their perception. They think the current administration in Gaza is an administration that wants to help the people of Gaza. But that is not the situation we're currently facing. And the people of Gaza know it. The people of Israel know it. The people who have been looking at Hamas for the past 17 years know that the number one enemy of Hamas is not Israel. It's not the IDF. It's the people of Gaza. It's the people they've been abusing. They've been executing people in Gaza who've been trying to speak out against the administration. It's amazing what you see here, and you just fail to see from 10,000 kilometers away. So to those people, I want to say, we encourage you to be a part of something bigger. We encourage you to be a part of doing something better here in this world. Just please check your facts, because it makes you look really not the smartest when you're supporting a cause that doesn't want your support.
This isn't what I say as well, is care deeply about innocent people in Gaza. We all should. I do, deeply. You're not going to help them if you're not pointing out and if you're trying to protect their actual enemy.
You're deepening the
You're hurting them more, absolutely. How do you figure out what approach to take when you're putting something up? Because a lot of people, particularly a lot of Israelis, a lot of Jewish people around the world, are trying to use whatever they can to help. And if they're not on the ground fighting, if they're not here, they're using social media. What advice would you give to people who are trying to put out content in terms of what maybe they're trying to show support and offer support to fellow Jews and Israelis, or they're trying to show their friends who are not what is actually happening? What's the most effective way of doing it?
I think the most effective way is to speak about what made you decide where you stand on the situation. Because when you research the situation, when you research the wars Israel has been involved in, you understand that there's a very clear logic. Israel has only fought wars that were existential to our survival here. We've only been fighting wars in accordance with international law. And once you do your research, whether it's because you have a deep sense of loyalty towards the state of Israel, you're Jewish, or you just know what's right and what's wrong, when you share that experience with other people, what process did you go through with making up your mind? I think that encourages other people to do their own research, to double check with the facts that they've been seeing that they're fed.
So this is what I get is because I think this is really, really important. Rather than just telling them what you believe the truth to be, and that's not really subjective. The truth is the truth. Tell them how you got there.
Exactly.
Because then they don't have to trust you. They can just go through that process themselves and get there. Okay, that's really interesting.
It's a challenge for us because once again, I'm here, I'm wearing uniform, so automatically, and I truly do believe that what the IDF is doing is just that we're fighting a biblical scale war of our existence, of the existence of the Jewish people here in Israel. But when I talk to my friends around the world, I don't justify my stance by just saying I had to draft when I was 18 because I live here in Israel. I shared with them the personal experiences I've seen. If it's a video someone posted that made me kind of realize a whole new prospect, a whole new aspect of this war, then I shared that. If I had a conversation with one of my soldiers, I have a lot of soldiers who are lone soldiers, people who made Aliyah and moved here to Israel. And I was born and raised here. So my perception, my understanding of what it means to be Israeli and what it means to be a Jew is very inherent to the fact that I was born here. But I get to see a lot of different approaches, a lot of different perspectives to why the Jewish state must exist. So I try and share that, and I try to always learn and listen.
A lot of people say that Israel is really bad at PR. And I get asked about this all the time because I guess in my line of work, it's communication. My response to that always initially is, if you need PR after October 7, then you're not the problem, would be my response. What is your response to that? And are you guys getting better at this, do you think? Like, how do you take that feedback from your own people, and what are you doing if you think there's always room for improvement to get better at delivering a message?
So first and foremost, I'm a very grounded person, I'd like to say. I don't think we're winning this PR war, but I also think we're playing by our rules. Our enemies are not playing by any rules. If you look at, I think it was a New York Times article, the top 10 most influential photos of the Israel-Gaza war. 3 of those photos that are coming out of Gaza are AI generated.
Yeah.
It's a photo of a kid that really breaks your heart. It's a kid sitting on what is left of his home, just ruins, and he's holding a Palestinian flag. He has 3 ears and 6 fingers. Yeah. But our enemy does not care.
And it'd be okay, not even okay, but if it was just influencers or random people sharing it, you'd say, okay, we can't control that. But when it's official media networks, legacy media networks, people at Reuters who are sharing that, that's when it's hard because people think they get it right. People trust it.
Exactly. Once it gets the stamp of approval of traditional media, then people feel much more comfortable to take it and run with it. We cannot afford to play by these absurd and warped rules of media. The IDF will never lie about what is happening in the field, no matter how ugly the truth is, how difficult, how much we have to interrogate ourselves and check what it is that we are doing wrong. We will never shy away from the truth because that is our standard. It's the standard we set to our soldiers. It's the standard of our commanders, and that is the standard we uphold with the media. So that is one very, very big challenge. The second one is it's a challenge of numbers. At the end of the day, we're talking about 42 Muslim Arab countries, one Jewish state. We're talking about 14 million Jews around the world. We're talking about 2 billion Muslims.
Yeah.
it's a game of numbers, and I'm not trying to overwhelm the media with pro-Israeli content or things that are serving our narrative. My goal is to make the information that is from the field as accessible as possible, as understandable as possible, so those people who do still want to understand what is happening have access to that information. But I know in the war of the TikToks, I just won't be able to win.
It's such another great point you make in regards to, and my dad was in Iraq for a year running the war in Iraq, chief of operations there, and I would say to him as a teenager, "You're fighting ISIS and Al Qaeda who don't follow any of the rules, but you guys have to follow the rules. That's not fair." And I remember so distinctly him saying to me, "But if we don't uphold what we value and believe in, what are we fighting to protect?
Exactly.
What are we fighting for?" And you're right. You as the IDF can't come out with, AI generated images or they have no standard, no truth, no integrity. That is a difficult, almost impossible war to win.
Exactly. But then again, I'm trying to make sure that the stories from the ground are being heard. I'm not trying to talk to those who are convinced that Israel is this white colonialist, supremacist, genocidal, apartheid, any other word from the dictionary you can come up with that has a negative connotation. I'm not trying to talk to these people. I'm trying to talk to the people who really want to have a sense of understanding of what's happening in the Middle East. And you can't understand what's happening in the Middle East without understanding what's happening here in Israel. So I'm trying to talk to those people and try and once again give them the most accessible form of information, whether it's in the form of memes. We try and do those in the form of informative videos, websites. We try and make ourselves apparent on every platform where people go to get information, to kind of build their own opinion and perspective. So that is what we're doing.
A couple more questions. You mentioned memes, and it's such a fascinating space now when it comes to social media during wartime, because official accounts now, but I mean, even the Iranian regime, they use fire and rat emojis, and that's, it's insane. But you guys, you sometimes do memes and humor, and is that a decision that was made that, hey, we've got to talk to people in a way that that is palatable, that gets their attention, that is effective, that make people laugh? We've got to provide a bit of relief. Like, was that a conscious decision from the top saying you're allowed to do this on the social media? How did that come about? Because there's been a bit of a shift, I think, in recent times, and I think for the most part, it's been more effective.
For sure. I'd like to believe that it's been more effective because it's something that I've been pushing for many years. It's an understanding that came from the bottom up. We realized that we taught
the consumers of all the content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our soldiers, my soldiers are the people who live and breathe social media. I think I'm the only commander in the army that is upset with her soldiers not being on TikTok and 2 hours every day, which it comes with some privileges. But they live and they breathe this content world, and they tell the commanders when there's something we can relate to, something we can take part in. Yeah. And the commanders understood that they can't ask us to give them legitimacy within younger audiences, but banning us from talking in the language of younger audiences. So it's a very important realization. It came in previous campaigns where we saw how difficult it is for us to kind of make such difficult. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not something you can explain in a 60-second TikTok, but you can use a meme or some sort of a short platform format to kind of highlight what is important in this specific context.
Or highlight hypocrisy in the other sides. It tends to sway. Yeah.
So a situation that happened, I think 6 months into the Swords of Iron War, at the post-October 7th massacre war, there was a trend on TikTok where people would generate photos of dolphins jumping through rainbows, would put Zara Larsson's song Symphony and this most obvious sentence ever on the screen. A silly, regular TikTok trend, just another Monday on TikTok, and we decide, listen, we feel like we're losing the younger generations. We're losing the younger people. We have to take a bold decision. We decide to hop on that trend, as the youths would say.
Yeah.
And we put on the screen, Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Yes.
To us, to the people who've been living this, to the people who are relating to what Israel is fighting, it's a very clear sentence. It infuriated a lot of people, but I have to say, I've been in a lot of historical rooms for my last 6 years in the army. Never did I sit through an as awkward conversation as me trying to pitch to a 50-year-old man why we should be posting dolphin soaked rapos.
But you won.
I won. It is credit. I won. He admitted defeat. He called his granddaughter. She gave the go ahead. We ran with it.
It's like this is such a surreal world.
It is,
But
yeah.
it matters. This is how you know, and we love 50-year-old men, but this is not their space.
Exactly, and I think something I'm very proud of once again is the fact that the commanders of the army, up until the chief of staff, understand that we can't expect the leaders of the world in the next 20 years to be with us if we don't invest in them when they're trying to understand where they stand on the political map and the geopolitical map. We can't expect them to understand what's happening in the country so far away from them without making the information accessible. And if it means that we have memes and we're the only army in the world that is on TikTok because we understand that that is where the youth of the world is. If it means having a podcast, if it means doing whatever we can to make ourselves as accessible to the people of the world as possible, then that's what we'll do. And I have to say they've been more than accommodating, more than understanding. And of course, we can joke and we can do memes, but we will never take from the dignity and the respect of idea of soldiers. We will never post anything that is against our code of conduct, our values.
There is a line.
There is a very distinct line because, once again, international legitimacy is important, but our core values are much more important. It's the only thing we have. So, yeah, everything is tested against that. And if we feel comfortable with it, then we go ahead and we have a good time.
Last question. You mentioned earlier, that the heroes, the people doing it tough for those out on the front line. In my opinion, that is absolutely you and your team, and not even now where maybe a week ago almost the war was elsewhere. The war is now here, and we look at the targeting of facilities, including the one we are in now. In terms of, I mean, they target civilians. We know that, but also all of this. Are you willing to die for this cause for your country?
If I wouldn't have been ready to do that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. And at the end of the day, I have to say, all of the people in the army, we know someone, we have a family member, we have a best friend that has lost their lives for this war, for this country. We still live here. My parents made Aliyah. They moved here from Russia, from the Soviet Union in the early 90s. They moved because they felt they were oppressed. They were being prosecuted for being Jewish. If someone kills you here, they're doing it because you're Israeli, because you're here in your country and you have someone who will defend you. You have people in green, beige, and blue that will come to your rescue and will do everything to make sure you're secure and you're safe. And I don't think there's a bigger comfort for me to be able to go to sleep at night knowing that someone will protect me, someone will be there for me, and I will do the same for anyone else here in this country. So
it must feel lonely sometimes. But on behalf of people like me who are not Jewish, not Israeli, but who understand what is at stake and understand that you fight for all of us against this terrorist threat, I thank you so, so much for all that you are doing. And I will continue to support you in every single way.